I appeared in my mom's path. And my mom was walking, she didn't have a car. She was close to her bus stop, and it's when, again, floating from above, I'm like, oh, that's mom. And this is, like you mentioned, the most important thing about this part of the experience is that one, it validates the experience. And two, wow, I think that's what blows everybody's minds away. And is that, yeah, the moment I said that's mom, she stopped. And I want to add something very important here, Lori, and is that my mom had got a new job. What is that we as responsible people are going to always decide? Oh no, my job goes first. It's the new job. I have to be there. No. This call was so strong that my mom stopped. She knew something is happening at home with one of my babies. And she turned around and started to run.
My guest today is Dr. Ingrid Honkala, who had a near-death experience from drowning at the age of 3. But that experience, although was amazing and she's talked about a lot, isn't her only near-death experience. She has had 3 of them. And what I love about her experiences is that she has had outside of her body visions that she was able to get confirmations for. And she also has one of the closest connections to a mother from the other side that I've ever heard, where she was actually able to influence her mother to do something. So today, as usual, we are going to go deep, and I'm going to ask her all the questions I've always wanted to ask her since I heard about her experience. So, Ingrid, welcome. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Lori, for having me here. It's such an honor. I always love sharing, and I'm eager to share with your audience today.
Well, that's wonderful. And I'm so excited because I heard about your near death experience many, many years ago. It's really stuck with me, especially that part where you influenced your mom as a mother. I could just imagine being in that situation and feeling the emotions of your mother as she's rushing to try and save you, not even knowing what's happened, but knowing that she must go immediately. So I'll let you go ahead and tell your first near death experience in whatever way you would like to share it.
Thank you so much. Then, yeah, by then, as you mentioned, I was a little child. I was close to 3 years old. I was born and raised in Bogota, Colombia. And then I was living there with my parents and my sisters. And we had a nanny that she didn't really pay attention to the things we were doing when my parents were not around. Early one morning, they left for work. She went to do her thing. And my oldest sister, she was close to 4. And I decided, let's go play in the patio. And then we went to the patio and we found a ball. And in this patio, there was a big tank. And the purpose of this tank was collect water for hand washing clothes. Because back then we didn't have a washing machine. And then we decided, from all the things to do, let's play cash across the tank. And first, this is a place where we have been told not to be. And second, of course, it was the fun thing to do. So we climbed the walls of the tank. This was a big tank. It held about 900 gallons of water. So we climbed the tank. She sat on the flat surface for scrubbing, so she was a little bit safer. And I went on the other side, and it was a thin edge. And I'm leaning very precariously in this tank, but hey, we're having fun. So she threw the ball. She didn't apply enough force, and the ball fell on, and it was floating on the water. It fell in the tank. And then I thought, oh, I can grab it. And then the moment I tried to grab the ball, I touched it, it rolled, and I lost my balance and fell in the tank. The first feeling, Lori, was the sense of that water was frigid, cold. People have the misconception that because I'm from Colombia, I come from hot weather country, but Bogota's high up in the Andes. So the temperature in this tank that early in the morning had to be probably around 30, 40 degrees Fahrenheit. So imagine the first thing was the shock of this water was frigid cold. And from there, I think just that, it was like, took my breath away. And from there, I had never been in a pool. We didn't have a bathtub, so I never have been under the water. So it was that complete horror why I cannot breathe. And imagine trying to get out of this tank in this desperate attempt to breathe. And then when I was in this state of complete horror, it's when something amazing happened. In just a blink like that, I went from that horror to a state of peace, complete peace, calmness, serenity. And it was like, I didn't know what was happening, but the only thing I knew is that I didn't need to breathe. I didn't have to get out of the tank. I didn't have to do anything. It was just that absolute sense of, this is just good. And I always like to mention how much contrast there was in this experience, because people always ask me, how can you remember if you were so young? And I always like to answer that up front, because is this idea, how can, and although many people say, I can remember my childhood, many get trapped in the idea, how can you remember? And first, imagine drowning is a very traumatic experience. Second, going from that horror to that calmness, it completely is an impact that is hard to forget. After that, there's the contrast of this tank where I felt was completely made out of cement. It was a very dark space. It had a roof. It was early in the morning. So the last thing I saw with my eyes open was the darkness of the space. And it comes that the moment I enter into that space of peace and serenity, light. And it was a light that came from below. And it was like the light of a candle was lit, and it was able to illuminate the whole watery surrounding. So imagine it was going from the dark, complete darkness, to the sense, now there is light. The other contrast is that I lived in a house that was very noisy. There was my sisters, we have birds, dogs, there was noise, cousins. And the last thing I heard when I was drowning also was the beating of my heart. Imagine when you're in that state of anguish and your heart is like boom, 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 boom. And you're almost like coming out of my chest, and I could hear it in my head like a drum. Then calmness, complete silence. And that silence that came with such peace, Lori, I call it the silence behind the silence, was something I could never forget. To the point that even after the experience, I would hide in closets, I would go under the bed, later I would go into chapels, anywhere I wanted that silence back. And it was it was difficult, because many years it was the sense why I cannot find it. Then now I am in this atmosphere of light and silence and calmness and peace and serenity. And then I started to see bubbles. And these bubbles were surrounded by light. And it was by chasing these bubbles. Imagine now, this is so much fun. There's bubbles. And I started to chase the bubbles, and I turned around, and it's when I saw my body in the water. And when I saw the body, it was amazing, because I had the clear realization that is my body. And it was the sense of familiarity. Another thing that I think that the thing that probably impacted me about the body is that the body had the eyes open. And you know how the eyes, we always say that are the reflection of the soul? Those eyes were empty. It was that sense of, oh, that's just the shell. Like the eyes felt empty. And that was probably the one thing that shocked me about the body. But other than that, it was the sense of like, oh, this is normal. Like nothing really strange is happening here. And it came the other contrast. I was born as a very sick child. And I spent almost 3 years of my life always unwell. I didn't even know what well-being was. And now imagine, I am in the state for the first time of is like complete and absolute well-being. I'm feeling like 100%. And then what happened is that I look at that body and I'm like, oh, I'm not going back there. That doesn't feel good. I don't want to be there. And then I made the decision at that moment to leave the body behind. And I turned around. And the moment I turned around, I started to see flowers. And these flowers were blooming from nowhere. And now this is so majestic, and I was picked by the flowers. So even that sense of dimension disappeared. Now I'm being picked by flowers. And then I put the analogy that is like going back to the womb, where you don't have to do anything, you're just being done. And then I'm being just carried and in a state of bliss when suddenly, just in a flash, I appear in the maid's room. And then I'm looking at her from above, like floating in the ceiling. And I'm like, oh, that's Maria. And she was completely immersed, distracted, listening like soap operas in the radio. And then since nothing happened with Maria, in another flash, just like that, I appear in my mom's path. And my mom was walking. She didn't have a car. She was close to her bus stop. And it's when, again, floating from above, I'm like, oh, that's mom. And this is, like you mentioned, the most important thing about this part of the experience is that, one, it validates the experience. And two, wow, I think that's what blows everybody's minds away. And is that, yeah, the moment I said that's mom, she stopped. And I want to add something very important here, Lori, and is that my mom had got a new job. What is that we as responsible people are going to always decide? Oh no, my job goes first. It's the new job. I have to be there. No. This call was so strong that my mom stopped. She knew something is happening at home with one of my babies. And she turned around and started to run. And there's two things I have to say about my mom. She was a very intuitive person. But the other thing that is, I guess, the most important, that she listened to her intuition. And while she's running, I'm looking at her and I'm like, oh, I wonder why she's running. And then I saw in the horizon, when I was looking at her, then now I see in the horizon a dog. And I adore animals. And the moment I feel the desire to be with the dog, I am with the dog. And then, wow, this is cool. And the moment I changed my view and I saw a park and I felt the desire to be in the park, I am in the park. Wow, this is awesome. Now I'm wanting to just play this game. And I started to play a game of going everywhere. So it was like this sense of time and space, just as we know it, disappeared. And I was just having fun. And when I'm playing my game of going places in another blink like that, Now I am in a realm, Lori, that is made of pure, intense, shiny, bright light. And this was the first time in the almost 3 years of my life that I felt, I am home. It was that sense, I am home. And you know how home feels, is this sense of like, this was good and comfortable and warm and cozy and embracing. It was just home. And something else happened there. Although I had seen my body in the water, up to this moment, I didn't have the clear realization that that was not my body. That was no, I mean, that was my body, but that was not who I was. See, that was not me, is what I meant to say. So the moment I had this realization, it was like, oh, I'm not that body. I'm not that. And it's when I realized myself as a being of light. And then I started to have this sense of like, like dissolving, being part of everything. But I was still having a sense of self. But even this sense of self dissolved. And it's when I had this sense that I call it nothingness. And some people call it non-self, some people call it emptiness. I call it nothingness because it's what I experienced at that moment. It was that moment of complete sense of no meaning, no form, no color, no vibration, no sound. It was just the only thing I can use to probably, I guess it's the most difficult part of the experience to relate with words. But I would just say that is a moment of complete and absolute presence and pure consciousness. And when I said nothingness, people get scared, like, what do you mean nothing? Then I like to put an analogy too. And this analogy is something somebody shared with me, and I thought it was the perfect analogy. Imagine a big stadium. And in the middle of the stadium, there's a little tiny box. And all you think you were was that tiny little bitty box. And suddenly the box opens. And you realize I said nothing because it's nothing you thought you were. But at the same time, wholeness, totality, absolute interconnection. That sense of complete connection with everything. It was that sense of dissolving again, the sense of pure presence. And it was, if I could describe anything related with an emotional state of being, would be that of bliss. So, just because this just lately happened, that someone mentioned to me, because I felt that I have completely dissolved with that wholeness. And someone says, imagine that is the sense that, because someone asked me if I have I met God, I said, imagine that at that moment you are a child and you're being embraced by the father or the mother, and you completely feel like a baby feel that it loses its sense of self completely in the arms of the mother or the father. So that's how I experienced God. It was a complete sense of connection, communion, dissolving. So I was in that experience when my mom finally arrived home. And this is the other incredible thing, Lori. We lived in a big house, but she knew exactly where to go. And she directed herself to the back of the house. And there was still my sister. It was that the purpose of my sister was to show my mom Ingrid is there. And she was trying to get me out of the tank. And she said, Mom, Ingrid is there and I cannot get her. My mom jump in the tank. She got me out, and she said like I was like a raggedy doll, no pulse, no breathing, blue fingers, blue lips, all pale. And then now this, imagine this incredible synchronicity. My mom worked with children, and she had been trained to do CPR for children. So whatever she knew to do, she started to do to me. Otherwise, imagine she would have been scared. She would not have known what to do. And then she's just doing whatever. But I was so disconnected from this body and from this reality that I did not feel anything she was doing. What happened is that suddenly I felt that I had jumped from the tallest building in the world, and there was nothing I could do to stop this. But I was resisting. It was the sense of like, no. But I was being pulled. I was being vacuumed back. There's nothing I could do. And I knew I was back in the body, Lori, when all the feelings of like the coldness, this sense of losing that expansive sense of being was reduced to the little box again. And I felt that freedom now was taken away, and I felt the sense of discomfort and the sick body that I've been carrying for almost 3 years. And I was very angry, very, very angry. So the other analogy I put, imagine you bring your child to an amusement park, and he's having all the fun in the world, and now you say we have to go. Oh, the child is going to be really mad. So I was angry. I did not want to be back. Yes.
Wow. Ingrid, that is such an incredible story. And the part, of course, that I love the most is what happened to your mom. It was such a simple thing. You're above her. You're like, that's my mom. And she stops. She turns around and she begins to run. And I love that you mentioned that she had a new job, because everybody can relate to that feeling of, I have this new job. I can't lose the job. I have to show up. I have to be on time. And she didn't even think about it. So I'm curious, you're only 3 when this happened. Did you ever talk to her about how she felt about that incident and what she felt in that moment?
Oh, yeah, but it was later, many years, when we were now, because it took me many years to integrate this experience, of course. But one thing, incredibly, when people think about experiences like that, someone that have had a near-death experience will never, ever forget. It's exactly as it was. Like it just gets completely depicted in your mind. Those moments don't go away. And then incredibly, not just my mom, but my oldest sister never forgot the experience either. And she was about to be 4. So she is like the mind of 3 people that completely remember this moment. My mom said later to me, when that the sense of dread, like I have to be home no matter, like if she was cool, and she had to respond to that call. So yeah, that's just incredible how, again, 3 people involved and remembering the experience as it just happened yesterday. Yeah.
Wow, that is amazing. So one of the things that I've learned in talking to so many people who've had near-death experiences is that nobody dies before their time. So for you, it must not have been your time, but you're a child. Yet I feel that you didn't have the experience on the other side as a 3-year-old child's mind. You had it as a higher level being. So will you explain what you understood in that time that you were on the other side, other than the fact that you knew you were home?
It was, I didn't have words or understanding like that, just feeling. That's why my experience, I tell it more as feeling. I felt serenity, I felt silence, I felt peace, I felt this, I felt that. See, I because again, you're mentioning I was a child. So for me, it was not the rational, there was not even that, to the point that many, many, many years later, when I ask, and we can talk about my connection with the beings of light, but when I asked, why my near-death experience happened, the first one when I was so young? The answer was because you were old enough to remember, but young enough not to be conditioned yet. So I didn't even know that people died. I didn't even know any of these things. So that's the most amazing thing about this, the purity of a child that doesn't have expectation, doesn't have knowledge about it. So for me, I can always talk to you in terms of what I felt, the felt sense of the experience, and that profound. And it took many, many years to also put words into it, because again, and it's known that for a child, it might take between 30 and 40 years to integrate these kind of experiences. And it was
Wow.
only through time when I started to learn about other experiences and books and things, and oh, that's what happened to me. That's what happened. That's what happened. And that's what happened. So I was able to little by little put it into context and give it names. But again, I cannot even name, or I mentioned the word God because that's something I understood later. But even at the time, I didn't have a concept of God. See, that's why I don't really mention it in my experience. It was all felt sense. And if I
Yes.
could talk about God to you, say, oh, yeah, I completely merged in the arms of God. See, but there's only feeling, 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 feeling. And yeah, there was things that I saw, like the flowers,
Yeah, what did the
like my
flowers look
body.
like? What did the flowers look like to you?
Oh, they were, to the point that I had that vision for many years, of that dream. I see it, saw it later more like hills that were completely covered, like mountains covered with flowers. And for me, flowers are the exquisite. I love flowers, but in this thing, it was so many flowers, but everything was dark at that moment. There was the light, enough light to illuminate the space, and flowers now are blooming. They're just appearing, and they're flowers of all colors. And if I could think about maybe some similarity of a flower, it could be like orchids, or it could be, and they opened and they picked me up. So this was, imagine this whole thing, just so majestic, so beautiful. So
Wow.
it was so comfortable, so loving, so embracive, nothing was abrupt, or it was just beautiful. I could just say
Wow.
beauty describe this experience. Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like it. So, Ingrid, were you able to get confirmation that you saw your maid, your nanny, who was supposed to be watching after you and what she was doing during that time?
Actually, yes, 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 to the point that they fired her, of course.
Oh, wow, I'm
And
sure.
to the point that years later, when we were talking with my mom and remembering all the experience, I said, I even remember the soap opera she was listening in the radio. And we went to look, like, because I said it was this name. I mean, how can you even have this? This is incredible. And we went to look, and yeah, that soap opera, that was like a radio thing that they will make the voices of the actors and everything. And it was the exact name of the soap opera was running in those days in Bogota, in Colombia.
I
So
love it that you got such a great confirmation. Not everybody gets those. That must be another aspect that makes you cements in you that this was a real experience.
yes, yes, yes. And the other thing is when I ask about the purpose of my near death, why did it happen? And you just mention it there so beautifully, in a way, of when you mentioned that connection between my mom and I, and that was the purpose. The purpose was to bring the message of the power of connection.
Oh, I love this.
Yes, and when I asked the being, so like how come? Because at the beginning, of course, like I said to you, I've been integrating and understanding the experience, gaining more and more clarity. They said, look, what did you do when you just saw your body? I said, I left it behind. I said, yeah, like you mentioned, that was not your purpose. Your purpose wasn't to die. Your purpose was to come back. Reason why you went to look for the mate and you went to look for your mom. See, so at the beginning, it was my egoic mind, the one that decided, oh, I'm no, that body is uncomfortable, and no, I am not going back there. But it's when they say, when the universal purpose is greater than the desire of the egoic mind, guess what? The egoic mind is going to lose. So at that moment, the real purpose of Ingrid came up into play, and I went to look for help. Said,
Yeah.
oh, I never thought about it. Like, of course, I went to look. If I was thinking I don't want to go back to the body, why would I go look for help? Because I
Right.
need to come back.
Right. Right.
So then I asked, but if I went to look for help, why would I waste time in the mate's room? Why would I go there first? And then it's when the being soul light said, that's where we want to show you contrast. What happened when you went to look for your mom's help? Love, unconditional love, absolute connection is when you can see that love doesn't have barriers.
Mm.
She could
Mm.
hear you. And they said to me, you're the proof that the communication between the spirit realm and the physical realm is real.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, she says, you're here to validate it, to prove it.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I'm so glad you're sharing that with the audience because the most popular video on my channel right now is the one I did where I talk about signs from our passed away loved ones and how our loved ones never leave us. They love us and they all always know what we're doing and they want to connect with us. So hearing a message like yours is another confirmation for the people listening about their own signs from their loved ones, which is so healing.
Yes, is that knowing that, look, that communication is completely real. And that's the power of connection, that love. But they say, what happened with the maid? No connection. And just to bring you to understand deeper that non-connection, this lady was very mean to us. And she was abusive towards us. So there was no connection at all. There was nothing there. So despite me going to her room, naming her, she could not hear. Nothing happened there. So
Wow.
the being so light said to me, look, when there is not connection, they will let you drown. When there is no connection, there's division, separation, war.
Wow. That's pretty powerful. When there is no connection, they will let you drown.
Yes. So
Wow.
that's what we do with each other when I think you're different. When I don't connect with you, then we create this sense of like the otherness.
Instead of the oneness.
Exactly.
Mm. Okay, this was amazing, but this isn't, you're like the Ginsu knife commercial, and there's more. So have you have a second near-death experience. So will you share that one?
Yes, the second one happened when I was about 24 years old, and it was a completely different experience with a different message. And this experience, I was riding a motorcycle. I was very nervous because it was my first motorcycle, and a friend asked me to bring him to his house, which was up in a hill. And I was like, I don't know, I haven't done hills yet, but you know, when they call you chicken and you're like, okay, I can do it. But my inner guidance was to not do it. See what happened when we don't listen to that inner guidance. And then, okay, of course I am going to do it. And then he's sitting at the back and riding the bike, and I don't know what happened, Lori, but I just was, I guess, too nervous. And the bike asked me for the changing gear, and I don't know what did I do if I lost the control of the bike. And incredibly, even before I hit the ground, I was already standing in the middle of the road. And the powerful message from this experience is, because it has been so handy, because years later, many people have asked me if their loved ones suffer when they die in a tragic accident. And it's when I completely, and I can tell you with that complete clarity, the pain is in the body. The pain is in the nervous system. So the moment that you leave your body, although I have to tell you something and that's that way people can work in their connecting with their inner and start to realize I'm not the body. Yes, the body is a temple and we have to take care of it. And because the temple is being given to us in this life, but we are not the body. The more identify you with the body, it could happen that you experience some kind of pain after you die, but it's because it's in your psyche. It's in your mental, emotional body, mental and emotional body are too attached to the physical body. So you might feel the sense of pain, but if you have already done the work of realizing more and more, I am soul. I am soul. And I'm just this is a soul having a human experience. The moment that you leave this body, no pain. And I have heard the experiences of many people that have had near-death experiences in accidents like this. And they don't feel anything. They're already.
Me too, Ingrid. Me too. Me too. Over and over again. Yes.
Now that you have interviewed so many people, Lori, you know about this. And yes, before like I said, the bike fell, I'm in the middle of the road and I'm again seeing the light. And I'm completely engulfed by the light and with the sense of home again. And no fear at all. This is one of the things that more probably impacted me of this experience. No fear, no pain, no emotion, negative emotion whatsoever. I just, again, the sense of peace and joy and calmness and serenity. Again, go back to the emotional, the sense. And but there's another thing. Talking about emotions, one day I asked the beings of light, because I'm calling them emotions, but the beings of light said, peace, serenity, calmness, love, joy are not emotions. Those are universal principles.
Oh, I've never heard anybody say that before.
Yes, those are virtues. That's what you are made of at the core of your being. See, so when you go back home, you enter the space of that's what you are at the core of your being. See, you don't have to call for that. You are that. So it was this beautiful teaching I heard once that says, if the essence that you are is love, peace, joy, calmness, greatness, expansiveness. So the true question is, what am I doing not to be that?
Mm.
So imagine I am again in that space, and then someone they arrived to the scene of the accident, and now I'm being picked up. And then when I'm being picked up is when fear happened. Why? Because I'm being picked up and I can feel the touch in the body, but I cannot see the person that is picking me up. And I don't understand why I cannot see. So I touch my face. Now at that moment, I regain physical movement. I touch my face and I realize that my eyes are open, but I cannot see. Because being young and being silly, thinking, I don't need a helmet. Helmet is for, then I was not wearing a helmet. So the moment I hit the ground, I had this really bad head concussion, of course. And then I lost my vision. I was rushed to the hospital, and in the hospital, it took some time to recover my vision, and I started to recover the vision like a kind of like a tunnel vision. And in the room later with the doctor and my friend that was sitting at the back of the bike, really nothing major happened to him, just some scratches. And we were both there, and the doctor said, you had to lose your vision the moment you hit the ground. And I said, but I don't think so, because I'm seeing light. I'm completely surrounded by light. And my friend said, no, Ingrid, it's impossible. You could not have seen light because the accident happened at night and there was not any lamps. There was nothing. There was no light in the road. And he said, by the way, you never stood up.
Mm.
So
Well, there's your
now,
confirmation again.
yes, it was that clarity that, yeah, of course, I was seeing the light, but with the eyes of my soul, because guess what? The other confirmation, I was blinded. So how I was seeing light. So it's when, again, bringing people that clarity, when we're able to start seeing with our inner senses, the senses of the soul, to say something.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Who were the light beings that you saw?
Oh, I've been seeing the light beings since I was 3 years old.
So after your first experience, the light beings started working with you. Who are
Yeah.
they?
Yes, yes. Again, it was all so beautifully happened because again, I didn't have names. This is beautiful, no conditioning, anything. So they presented to me in, I would just say, a very organic way, in a way that I could understand it at the moment. So I was having a really hard time growing up because you imagine, I am back, Lori, now, and I see my parents, and now I have the sense these are not just my parents. I had experienced oneness, so I felt them as my equal.
Oh, I'm sure that went over really big.
Yes, and now I'm seeing my body. Imagine my poor mom. I'm seeing my body, and I said, I'm not this child. I am not a child. And I never felt like a child again. I could not relate with other children. I would look at other children and think, what is happening to these people? They don't know anything. So it was clear I came back with a consciousness I didn't have before. Now that you sometimes you ask when you make the interviews about before and after, this was clear I was a different child. And when I tried with the adults, it was also the sense, oh, there was no connection. And now to validate even more that something was happening, Lori, when I came back, I'm about just to be 3 years old. And not long after, and of course, this developed more and more, but now I could read. I could write.
Whoa.
I could resolve mathematical problems. I could put together complex puzzles. I could paint. So it was like,
Wow.
it was clear I was a child. Something happened, but there was not understanding back then.
Sure. Yeah.
My
Yeah.
mom, thankfully, my mom was a very compassionate and very open-minded person because later, and she was the first person to validate my experience because later, to not go too long, but in a school, I started to do drawings and stuff like that. And she was the one that validated that I was seeing things because she also could see things others couldn't. So that was how she became so important in my life in that sense too. And with the being so light, I was going through a really hard time. I stopped eating. I didn't want to be here. I could not connect with nobody, not even my own persona. So there was a moment that I was in such a state of distraught. And then I would go to sleep. And I started to have what we know today as out-of-body experiences. I was going back to that realm of the light over and over. And I wanted to be there. And in one of these journeys, one day I was completely surrounded by starlight figures, shining in all different colors. And in one of these journeys, one of these figures that was shining in gold, like, oh, it's pure gold. It approached me and it shaped into a human form. And he's like, to show me, look, we're the same. And it touched me. And it's when I said, oh, you are a being of light. And then Lori, I spent hours and hours sleeping. And of course, my parents have like fired that other lady. They hire a new one. But if the child is sleeping and she doesn't have to take care of the child that much, then she'll let me sleep. But of course, I could not be the child that is left forever. So to balance this, one day I'm taking a shower, just relax there in the shower. When in the bathroom, a huge, like this blue intense light shone in the bathroom. And I'm like, oh, now the beings of light are here. And at the beginning, they didn't say or do anything. I started to see them everywhere. But just the sense that, oh, they are here, started to bring this sense of wanting to play with my sisters, wanting to eat. I felt, and this was a teaching I understood years later. And because I started to feel the sense of home, and it's when I realized, oh, I get it. Home is not a place, it's a state of being.
Yeah, that makes a lot of
And
sense. Because
yes,
I had an experience on the other side when I was on one of my journeys where I experienced eternity, and it was not a time constraint. Just like you said, it was an actual state of being.
yes. And I'm glad we came to this, because again, when you ask me how I experienced my first near death, is just beingness. There's not really, and again, the words came later, but it was just felt sense and beingness. So like I said at the beginning, the beings of light didn't do or say anything. And the moment that I could feel them, I could smell them, like smell like flowers, like the most incredible flowers. I could just it was the sense that they were there with me. I could again see, feel, smell. And but they didn't say anything. The moment they started to talk to me was one day that I threw a huge tantrum because I didn't identify with my name. And then one day they were calling me to a dinner, and every time they called me Ingrid, I was like, oh, that's not my name. And I felt very aggravated. And then the lady came, Ingrid, we're calling you for dinner. And I said, don't call me like that. That's not my name. And when she said, how should I call you? What is your name? I said, I do not need one.
Which works so great in these human constraints that we're in.
So it's when, for the first time, they sent me to bed, like, oh, we cannot deal with this girl. I went to bed and I was, of course, crying, so angry, sad. And then is when I heard for the first time, it's going to take a while for them to understand that names are not needed in the realm of the light. Labels are not needed. So, of course, later I understood that names are beautiful. They carry frequency. They are needed for our human experience. But in the realm of the light, there's no labels.
Yeah, makes
They
a lot of
said,
sense.
yeah, they're saying you're understanding. You already know this. And it was that sense of like, oh, now I understand why I don't need a name.
Wow.
So yes, this relationship with the beings of light started very young. And they said to me, there will be people that will be put in your path to help you and guide you. And like I said, my mother and my mother who brought me to the path of spirituality were very important in my life. And they also said to me, all the experiences that are happening to you and the ones that will happen, someday you will share. But for now, you have to be silent because they're not going to understand. And yeah, very quick, I realized they didn't understand. So
Yeah, yeah, I'm sure. Okay, so you have two near-death experiences, and then you have a third one only, I think, about 2 years ago.
Yes, yes, yes. And the last one was very, very important, Lori, because for all the years, although I even had what I call a big spiritual awakening about 13 years ago, and a lot of integration and including the experiences, the emotions, and understandings, clarities, I always wanted to die. Because probably you have heard this from other experiencers that have near deaths, is when you're in heaven, when you experience the embrace of God, when you're in that peace, that joy, that calmness, you want to be there. And I
And you
wanted to
don't wanna
be,
be here.
and you don't want to be here. So it was always this sense, when am I going to go home? When am I going to go home? Although, like I said, I had the sense of home, but it was like, no, I always, and so I suffered from depression for many, many, many years.
Which
I
is not
suffered,
uncommon from the
yeah,
near-death experiencers at all.
yes,
Very
and it was,
common.
of course, existential depression. So the last experience was the one that finally kind of give closure to all this, and a new completely stage, a new completely period of my life, because the experience is too long. So I'm just going to go to the experience itself, to the day. But many days prior to this experience, I had the sense and knowing that something was going to happen. So I had to go into this surgery. Previous to the surgery, I had a car accident. I was avoiding this surgery because I was having some very bad problems with my womb, with my uterus, tremendous bleedings, very bad. So doctors have suggested surgery, but I thought I could heal from this. So we were doing hormone therapy, but I wasn't healing. And this car accident caused me to have a 15-day bleeding, the car accident, because of the seat belt and everything, the way the accident happened. It produce this bleeding that lasted for 15 days. So now I really needed this surgery that I did not want to have. I was avoiding. But I guess it had to happen for the experience that came next to just happen. So when I went to the hospital, also I had the clarity that something was going to happen during the surgery. And I told the doctor that she had to monitor my blood pressure. And this is the thing, I was guided to the right doctor because I was seeing another doctor and I switched doctors. I mean, it's a whole story, but now I was with this doctor that she was going to listen. And then at that moment, I am telling her, you have to monitor my blood pressure. She called the anesthesiologist because I was so reluctant. And then, okay, we're going to monitor your blood pressure. And then during the surgery, my blood pressure dropped dramatically and I entered into hypothermia. And when this happened, something incredible. Though it wasn't just that I had a near-death experience, but for the first time, I was asked if I wanted to stay or I wanted to go.
It was an exit point for you.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Wow.
And again, the first thing I saw, light. You know, different from the first near death where I had so much happening. I think once you have seen home, the rest kind of goes away. The second near death was the light. This near death, the light. You just cut to the chase. I was in the light. And then now I'm there again. And when I was asked if I wanted to stay, heaven again. Course, I said that it's like 10 diamond resort. You're like, you feel like, oh, of course I want to stay. This is heaven. This is the That's why it's called paradise, it's called heaven. It feels incredibly amazing. But something happened. The moment I was asked, or you want to go back, I said, wait a minute. I said, is this a test? I said, because if God is the essence of everything, and if I perceive God everywhere, everywhere. So where is here and where is there? I said, there is no here and there is not there. So the only thing that after that I thought was, keep me where I can serve God the most. And up to this point, I have been in the state of complete and absolute detachment. And it took me a little while to share this with my family and my husband, because although I adore them, love them, at this moment I am completely detached. And it's the sense, if I die,
you know it's going to be okay.
yeah. And I saw the order, I saw they will have the experiences they need to have. Nothing felt the sense of like that things were not the way they had to be. And then only when I said, give me where I can serve God the most, is when I thought my husband, my son, my family, my this, and then I guess I needed something to bring me back. I needed some kind of emotional attachment to anchor me back. And it's when I was back, but at this moment is when now that I've been mentioning already about home became completely clear. Yes, home is not a place, it's a state of being. And from that point on, I am in the absolute clarity that my human experience as Ingrid is my opportunity to clear what needs to be clear inside of me, to remember who I am. I said, if I can remember in my entirely, if I can self-realize here and remember that I am soul, I am a spirit, I'm already in connection with the totality here with this human body, I'm already there.
Wow. Right.
So I said, now I even said, instead of talking about near-death experience, I have to talk about near-life experience. Mm-hmm. How I really use this opportunity to grow, evolve, peel all the layers that I need to peel, become the master of myself. So that is where I am now. Let's just be present. Let's just use this opportunity. And in reality, we already know that there is no dead. We are eternal beings.
Right. So do you think you planned to have those experiences in this lifetime? Was that part of your plan in coming here?
I think so, Lori, because this is giving me the opportunity to share like this, bring clarities, show each other, look, we're more. That since I was so little, we're more than this physical body. We're more than this physical reality. Like, how can we start seeing our true nature, discovering who we truly are? So I think each one of these experiences and having all these possibilities to unveil. I always used to say, when people ask me, how can you remember from the first experience? I always say, it's because it's like, for me, the door never closed. The door never closed. And one day the being so light said to me, Ingrid, of course the door never closed, because there are no doors.
That's just the illusion of the human experience.
Yes, exactly. Say the kingdom of heaven, home, the light of awareness, God, the light of consciousness is always here for all of us, permanently, always.
Wow.
They are the ones that, due to conditioning, due to the sufferings, due to our, I don't know, ancestry, due to our culture, whatever it is, experiences, we put doors and we start putting windows and bells and all kind of stuff until we cannot shine. Our light is always shining. It's just covered.
Right.
It's
Well,
about removing.
so Ingrid, you are connected with these light beings for most of your life for guidance, and you're told to come back to share and to do the work that you're doing now. Did you develop some special gifts as a result of these 3 near-death experiences that you use as part of your life's purpose right now?
I think the most important gift of all is the capacity to remember who I am.
That's a big
First of
one.
all, and to learn to reconnect with my own inner wisdom.
Mm,
Because yeah, there's other things. I mean, I since I was a little child, I started to have what we call visions of the future. I started to have access to my past lives. I started to have all kind of different abilities, and even like the intellectual uh, abilities and all that. But the most important thing of all, because I said if we focus on that, we again lose the true essence of all these experiences, and is remember who you truly are. Remember you are the light. When I ask the beings of light, what is really our true purpose and what is our mission? They say your purpose, each one of us, is to remember who you truly are, is to remember that you are the light. And your mission is to shine that light. No matter where you are, shine it, because some people feel the sense, I became enlightened, or I am an awakened being, and they think they have to go to the Himalayas, or abandon the husband, the job, the house, the life. I said, what if you're able to shine that light wherever you are? Yeah, if probably changes happen in your life because of vibration, and because you change the way you vibrate, your frequency, then that could happen too. But the most important thing is shine that light in your home, your job, in the street, in the line, in the bank, wherever you are. So I think the most important for me is to remember I am an eternal being. I am the light. There is no death, there is only life. And if I can share this and bring this clarity and bring healing through this, the rest is icing to the cake.
I love it. I love it. Thank you. I'm so glad that you shared this, because I think that this is the main reason that I do these interviews, is because I want people to reconnect to the power of their own soul. So for the people that are watching who have not had a near-death experience, can you give us a few tips of what people can do to reconnect to who they are?
Yes, and I'm so glad you asked that, because first thing I said to people, do not have a near-death experience, because they asked me, but if you had all those experiences, that has to be really nice. I said, no, 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 no. Especially as a child, it was very hard, very isolating. Like I said to you, for a child, it takes between 35 and 40 years to integrate these experiences. It's not just the la la land. It is not. There's a lot of trauma involved. And for an adult, it takes between 15 and 20 years to integrate these experiences. And if you talk to so many about the depression it causes, about the
Mm-hmm.
sense you don't want to be here, the sense you're an alien, families get destroyed. It's very hard. So I don't recommend that you think you want a near-death experience, but you can get there. One, it's good when you listen other people's experiences in this sense, because then you have the clarity. Yeah, there's actually really more.
And it raises our own vibration when we do that.
Yes. So you
Yeah.
learn, like we learn from the teachers, we learn from the ones that already have had these experiences. And guess what is the other thing? From centuries, teachers have been bringing to us techniques of meditation, calming the mind, mindfulness, as we call it nowadays. Those are the ways. Prayer. in which just what happened, Lori, I think what happened is that people want to have a near-death experience because they don't want to do the work. But guess what? Having a near-death experience is more work
More
because
work,
it
yeah.
35 years to integrate the experience. So guess what? It's more work. So I suggest that we just learn to quiet the mind. Quiet the mind, calm the mind. When you calm the mind, and there's practices that I bring to people, and that's one of the work I do now is I do mentorings, coachings, classes, retreats to teach the people to calm the mind, and through many different practices. And one of those practices is through gratitude.
It's a big one.
Oh, gratitude brings us to one vibrate high. Gratitude is the highest vibrational frequency there is.
I
And
didn't know that. I thought love was, but it's gratitude.
but let me teach you, let me tell you why. There's a
Tell me
secret.
why. Yes.
When you work with gratitude, what brings you to gratitude and why gratitude? Because when we talk in terms of love, it's been so conditioned, so
Mm.
tainted. And when you say love, then people say, but love for me has been so bad. I don't know love. A love has brought me suffering. The only love I know is the love of the things that I've been taught. Or see, there's a lot of condition in love. But when you talk about gratitude, appreciation, in all the people, with all the people I have talked and made, and I have talked and discuss or have one-on-ones and discussions, there is no one person that cannot tell me that they have had a moment of appreciation about something, even when they were thirsty and they got water, when they were
Sure.
cold and they got a blanket, when they were sad and someone was there, when they were hungry and they got something to eat. Something in life will give you appreciation. But many
Every
people
single
can't.
day. Every single day.
Exactly. But many people can tell you, I have never loved anybody. I don't know love. So it's very hard to work with
That makes a lot
love.
of sense, Ingrid. It really does. I understand where you're coming from when you say that now.
Yes, exactly. So it's very, very hard. But imagine appreciation, like we're saying, oh, yes, every day there's something. Even that glass of water when you were so thirsty, something. So I always say people make that list of things you feel grateful for. And
Mm,
guess what? What are the things that make you feel grateful? The things that make you feel great. And what are the things that make you feel great? The things that you love.
true.
So at the end,
Yep. So they,
gratitude and love are
mhm,
synonyms.
exactly. Yeah. I love that. Oh, I'm so glad you
Yeah.
shared that. That's wonderful. I love it when somebody can share something that the audience can actually implement in a very simple way. And finding lists of gratitude every day is a great way. So, Ingrid, the people that are watching are probably going to want to connect with you. How can they do that? How can they work with you?
I have a website is Ingrid Honkala. Maybe you can put it
I
there because
will.
not everybody can spell ingridhonkala.com. And there I offer different ways to connect, even one. So I think the most important for me is to remember I am an eternal being. I am the light. There is no death, there is only life. And if I can share this and bring this clarity and bring healing through this, the rest is icing to the cake.
I love it. I love it. Thank you. I'm so glad that you shared this because I think that this is the main reason that I do these interviews is because I want people to reconnect to the power of their own soul. So for the people that are watching who have not had a near-death experience, can you give us a few tips of what people can do to reconnect to who they are?
Yes, and I'm so glad you asked that because first thing I said to people, do not have a near-death experience because they asked me, but if you had all those experiences, that has to be really nice. I said, no, 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 no. Especially as a child, it was very hard. very isolating. Like I said to you, for a child, it takes between 35 and 40 years to integrate these experiences. It's not just a la la land. It is not. There's a lot of trauma involved. And for an adult, it takes between 15 and 20 years to integrate these experiences. And if you talk to so many about the depression it causes, about the
Mhm.
sense you don't want to be here, the sense you're an alien, families get destroyed. It's very hard. So I don't recommend that you think you want a near-death experience, but you can get there. One, it's good when you listen other people's experiences in this sense, because then you have the
Yeah.
clarity. Yeah, there's actually really more.
And it raises our own vibration when we do that.
Yes. So you
Yes.
learn, like we learn from the teachers, we learn from the ones that already have had these experiences. And guess what is the other thing? From centuries, teachers have been bringing to us techniques of meditation, calming the mind, mindfulness, as we call it nowadays. Those are the ways. Prayer, in which just what happened, Lori, I think what happened is that people want to have a near-death experience because they don't want to do the work. But guess what? Having a near-death experience is more work,
More
because you
work,
need
yeah.
35 years to integrate the experience. So guess what? It's more work. So I suggest that we just learn to quiet the mind, calm the mind. When you calm the mind, and there's practices that I bring to people, and that's one of the work I do now. Is I do mentorings, coachings, classes, retreats, to teach the people to calm the mind, and through many different practices. And one of those practices is through gratitude.
It's a big one.
Oh, gratitude brings us to one, vibrate high. Gratitude is the highest vibrational frequency there is.
I
And
didn't know that. I thought love was, but it's gratitude?
but let me tell you why. There's a
Tell me
secret.
why. Yes.
When you work with gratitude, what brings you to gratitude, and why gratitude? Because when we talk in terms of love, it's been so conditioned, so
Mm.
tainted. And when you say love, then people say, but love for me has been so bad. I don't know love. A love has brought me suffering. The only love I know is the love of the things that I've been taught. Or see, there's a lot of condition in love. But when you talk about gratitude, appreciation, in with all the people I have talked and made, and I have talked and discuss or have one-on-ones and discussions, there is no one person that cannot tell me that they have had a moment of appreciation about something, even when they were thirsty and they got water, when they were
Sure.
cold and they got a blanket, when they were sad and someone was there, when they were hungry and they got something to eat. Something in life will give you appreciation. But many
Every
people
single
can.
day. Every single day.
Exactly. But many people can tell you, I have never loved anybody. I don't know love. So it's very hard to work with
That makes a
love.
lot of sense, Ingrid. It really does. I understand where you're coming from when you say that now.
Yes, exactly. So it's very, very hard. But imagine appreciation, like we're saying, oh, yes, every day there's something. Even that glass of water when you were so thirsty, something. So I always say, people make that list of things you feel grateful for. And
Mm,
guess what? What are the things that make you feel grateful? The things that make you feel great. And what are the things that make you feel great? The things that you love.
true.
So at the end,
Yep. So they,
gratitude and love are
mhm,
synonyms.
exactly. Yeah. I love that. Oh, I'm so glad you
Yeah.
shared that. That's wonderful. I love it when somebody can share something that the audience can actually implement in a very simple way. And finding lists of gratitude every day is a great way. So, Ingrid, the people that are watching are probably going to want to connect with you. How can they do that? How can they work with you?
I have a website is Ingrid Honkala. Maybe you can put it there.
I will.
Not everybody can spell ingridhonkala.com, and there I offer different ways to connect, even one-on-ones and just classes, all different ways to connect. I also have a newsletter. So if people just want to know what I am doing and the activities I am doing, I just came back from a 37 days trip in Europe where,
Wow.
yes, I was able to present in 4 countries, 10 cities, and I think 18 venues.
Wow, that's a lot.
So I did 2 spiritual retreats, one in Spain and one in the Czech Republic. So that was an incredible trip. So there's just, if people go to my media pages or my website, there's always can know, they will be informed of these activities I'm doing, and yeah, the different things.
Excellent. Well, Ingrid, you are beautiful inside and out. I so appreciate all of the tips that you shared with us for being vulnerable and sharing these near death experience stories. I know it's not easy to put yourself out there sometimes and share it. And thank you so much for what you're doing to help wake up the collective consciousness to the power of who they are. It is so needed right now.
Thank you so much for having me, and this has been a joy, big joy to share.
Me too. Me too. And thank you, everybody, so much for watching. Next up, check out this playlist of other NDE interviews. Please like and subscribe. It really helps this channel to grow so I can bring you more content. Thank you for watching. I'm so glad you're here.